It's playoff time. Let's make some predictions. But before we do that, I'm going to go over some of my best and worst takes from the start of the season. See what teams I had making and missing the playoffs. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Let's start off. In the Central Division, I had the Stars finishing first, the Avalanche finishing second, the Winnipeg Jets finishing third, St. Louis Blues in fourth, the Minnesota Wild in fifth, although I did have them as a playoff team, Utah Mammoth in sixth, Predators in seventh, and then the Blackhawks in eighth. I nailed the Blackhawks. I nailed the Blackhawks. In the Pacific Division, I have the Knights winning it, Oilers in second. So far, so good. The Kings in third, not the worst. The Canucks in fourth, which I'm not super proud of. The Ducks finishing fifth. The Flames in sixth. Kraken in seventh. And the Sharks in eighth. Yeah, I can't defend my Pacific Division predictions. That's bad. The Sharks were a lot better than I think most people expected, obviously myself included. And Macklin Celebrini might be the second coming of God. In the Atlantic Division, probably my worst set of predictions, I would say. The Florida Panthers in first. I knew they were hurt, but I still trusted that they had a good enough group. I had the Senators in second, so I feel okay about that. I'm not going to lie. I had them a bit higher than I probably should have, but I still had them as a playoff team. The Leafs in third. They were a complete mess this year. The Canadians in fourth. Yeah, no, they were not great. Or what am I talking about? No, they made the playoffs. Sorry, I was still on the Leafs again. I had Tampa missing the playoffs though. I can't really defend myself on that. I thought that, Andrei Vasilevsky, he looked somewhat human towards the end of last season, so I thought, maybe they'd miss the playoffs, but no, they still have Nikita Kucherov. He's still excellent. The Red Wings I had in sixth, which I think is where they finished, if I'm not mistaken. The Bruins I had in seventh, and the Sabres I had in eighth. Yeah, I think the Atlantic Division is definitely my worst set of predictions. Last but not least, the Metro. This might be my worst. This is probably second. The Canes I had finishing first. I think that was obvious since November. The Rangers I had in second. I thought that with the coaching change, I thought it'd be all they need. But no, I was wrong. Capitals, I knew they'd take a bit of a step back, and they did, but I still had them as a playoff team. Obviously, they were not. The Devils I had in fourth. I think they finished in, seventh, if I'm not mistaken. The Jackets I had in fifth, which I think is where they finished. Maybe they finished in sixth. So not too far off. The Islanders I had in sixth. The Penguins I had in seventh. And the Flyers I had in eighth. And I will gladly be wrong about the Penguins. I don't mind one bit. The Flyers, look, I don't think anybody really expected the Flyers to be a playoff team either. Okay? I'm sorry. But yeah, that's always fun to make fun of myself, go back, see what I said, and clown on myself many months later. Alright, now let's get into why you clicked on the video. Let's get into my playoff predictions. Now, let's start off with probably the easiest series to decide. I'm sorry, LA. I don't think you're very good. I'm happy you made the playoffs. I think it's nice that you're giving Kopitar one last shot at a cup run, but I don't think it's gonna last very long. I don't. I'm sorry. I have the Avalanche winning in five. I don't think it'll be a sweep, but it could be. I think at most I see LA stealing 2 games, but not much more than that. I have the Avalanche moving on here. Next up, Dallas, Minnesota. Potentially the best series here. And the way I look at this series is Something is up with the Dallas Stars. I gotta say that straight up. Something is up with the Dallas Stars. They have not felt like themselves in previous years. In fact, I would argue that this is probably the worst rendition of the Stars we've seen in the past 2 years, 3 years. I'm not a big believer in the Stars. I'm really not. And so for that reason, I'm going to give it to Minnesota. I'm going to go with the upset in 7. And I'm saying this because I think Minnesota has all the pieces in place. I think they have decent enough goaltending. I think they have good enough power play. I think that they have the playmakers such as Kaprizov and Hughes, of course, being the two big ones. But I'm a big fan of Matt Boldy. Of course, you never know what guys like Zuccarello will give you. I'm a believer in this Wild team. I don't know. I don't know, man. I also don't want to be boring and just pick the favorites every time because that's boring. Because I'm not gonna sit here for 20 minutes and be like, "Yeah, Colorado is a good team, guys. They're gonna make the Cup Finals." Like that's lame. You don't want to watch that. So I'm picking the Wild. I'm still going back and forth on this series. Vegas, Utah. I'm gonna pick the upset. I'm gonna pick Utah in 6. I know the Vegas Golden Knights have been really, really good under Torts. They've been excellent. I think they're what, like 7-0-1, something like that under Tortorella. The coaching change was very much needed because for whatever reason Bruce Cassidy had lost the locker room. However, I think the Utah Mammoth get it done. I'm not a big believer in I and I'll say it like this. I trust Vejmelka more than I trust Aiden Hill at this current moment in time. And so I think for that reason, I think Aiden Hill is going to let in a few soft goals that he probably shouldn't. I don't think Karel Vejmelka is going to do that as frequently. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the Mammoth to take the upset. Now, this next series, Oilers, Ducks. Oh yeah, I have the Mammoth taking it in 6. I don't know if I mentioned that. Edmonton, Anaheim. I'm going to cut to the chase. I think Edmonton is going to win this series for 2 reasons. One, the Ducks right now, I really wanted to pick the Ducks too, man, but the Ducks right now, they're not playing well. They're pretty cold right now. They had a lead on the Pacific Division pretty much all year, and then they squandered it in the last like 2 weeks of the season. On top of that, Edmonton has the best power play in the league right now. It's not even really debatable. I mean, even the stats say it. However, Anaheim takes a lot of penalties. I think they have like the 6th most penalty minutes, something like that. They're somewhere in the top 10. I know that much. So although I do think the Ducks will be able to score, I think that the Ducks are going to be taking too many penalties, and I think Edmonton is going to burn them. So I think for that reason, Edmonton is going to take this series. And I'm going to say in 6. Next up, we have the Buffalo Sabres and the Boston Bruins. This is going to be a tight series. This is going to be a very physical series. But I'm going with the Sabres. They are a wagon. Now, of course, Boston, I think, has the advantage in terms of defense and goaltending. But in terms of just the overall forward group, I think that Buffalo is going to be able to get it done. I think that they're going to be able to get a few past Swayman that they probably wouldn't otherwise, that they probably shouldn't, rather. I think that's a better way to say it. Because Swayman, although he has been very good this year, maybe top 10 good, I would argue, I think he is definitely one of those goaltenders that can be exploited if done correctly. So I am going to go with Buffalo here, but I would not be surprised in the slightest to see Boston take this series. Next up, Tampa, Montreal. I think this is going to be one of the best series, top 3 for sure. I'm going with the upset. Give me Montreal here. I know Corey Perry's Stanley Cup Finals curse, blah blah blah, whatever. And I feel like a lot of people are counting out Montreal. I think Montreal is a very young team, and they have a lot of fight, man. Cole Caulfield, 50 goals, Nick Suzuki, 100 points. I think if the goaltending, which is a bit shaky, I'll be honest, it's a bit shaky, so I am worried about that for them. I think in terms of goaltending, I think Montreal is definitely at a clear disadvantage here. But I do think that if whoever it is can hold down the fort, I think Montreal has a good chance. And if they can avoid taking penalties, Tampa, I believe, has the most penalty minutes of any team in the league. If they can capitalize on some of the power plays they're going to get, I very well could see Montreal winning this series. I'm going to go Montreal in 7. This series I find very tough to predict as well. Hurricanes Senators. I'm going to go with the Hurricanes, but by no means do I think it'll be a cakewalk. I'm going to go Hurricanes in 6. Ottawa is hot. There is no doubt about that. And Carolina's goaltending is up and down. Frederik Andersen he's usually very good, at least above average, but he always finds a way to go on really cold streaks where he allows 4 goals in 3 straight games or something of the sort. Brandon Bussey in his first playoff run, we'll see if he can do anything. It's man, it's hard. I'm gonna go with the Canes. I think that they do have the advantage in goaltending, despite everything I just said. But Ottawa's hot. I think they're gonna give them a fight. Last but not least, for the first round, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins going up against the Philadelphia Flyers. I am very excited for this series, not only because I'm a Penguins fan, but it's the Battle of Pennsylvania. West side, best side, baby. I'm going with the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're going to win this in 7. I mentioned this in my preview video yesterday. It's going to be one of those series where all gloves are off. Anything is possible in this series, and this is going to come down to maybe one penalty, one big goal or whatever. It's going to be close. Give me the Penguins to win it though. So if everything happens as I say it will, it'll be Colorado, Minnesota first, and then Utah, Edmonton. Along with in the Eastern Conference, you'd have Buffalo, Montreal, and Carolina, Pittsburgh. Let's start in the Western Conference. I'm going to go Avalanche versus Wild. I'm taking the upset. I don't care. I'm taking the upset. Give me the Minnesota Wild. I think Minnesota is genuinely one of the best matchups possible for Colorado. I think Minnesota matches up very well against them. I think that they have the playmakers to at least keep pace with their superstars like McKinnon and Carr, and they have a defenseman at least on par with Cale Makar with Quinn Hughes. I think that, you know, I do think Colorado is the more talented team, but I think when you look at the matchup, I think that Minnesota matches up very well against Colorado. I really think that. So for that reason, give me Minnesota. They're gonna win it in 7. Is it realistic? Probably not. But at the very least, I don't want to be the guy who says, "Oh yeah, the better team is gonna win," because as I said before, that's boring. Let's move on to another series in the West. Utah Mammoth versus the Edmonton Oilers. I'm going to pick the Oilers, and I think they're going to sweep. Similar to the Ducks, the Mammoth are also one of the most penalized teams in the league. I think they're also top 10 in penalty minutes. And as I said earlier, Oilers have the best power play in the league, and they will punish you if you let them get enough power plays. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the Oilers here. On top of that, they just have more experience, and I think that they'll be able to hold down the fort. Sabres, Montreal, Carolina, Pittsburgh. Let's start with Buffalo, Montreal. I'm going to go with Montreal here in 6. I don't know, man. I think that Montreal, they're going to be on a hot streak after the Tampa series. And although I'll be rooting for Buffalo the entire way, unless they play the Penguins, of course. I'll be rooting for Buffalo through and through. But I truly think that this Montreal team is they're definitely a different group. I'll say that. And I think that they can definitely compete with the best of the best. I am a bit worried about their goaltending, as I mentioned, but I think that they're going to be good enough, and I think they're going to be able to score enough goals to where it's hopefully not going to matter. Carolina, Pittsburgh. I'm going to go Carolina here. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Carolina here, I think they're just a better team than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, they can roll out 4 lines, yes, but I think when you look at the forwards, the defense, and the goaltending, I think Carolina has them beaten all 3 areas. They're just the better team. Carolina in 5. Minnesota, Edmonton. Screw it. It's another 7-game series. Minnesota's going to win it because why not? Let the chaos ensue as the Minnesota Wild make their first Stanley Cup Finals appearance in franchise history. And they're going to beat the Oilers, who have played so many games, so many years in a row at this point. Of course, they've made it to back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals, ultimately losing both of them, of course. And I think they're going to be fatigued, and I think the Wild are going to pull through. I don't know, man. I don't know. As I said, I don't want to be the guy who just picks the favorites. I think that's lame. Speaking of picking favorites, though, I am going to pick. I am unfortunately going to pick Carolina to beat Montreal here in a 6-game series. Carolina, I think, just has more experience here. They've been to the conference final. How many years now out of the last 5? 4? 4 years in the last 5, maybe? I don't remember. They've been here a lot recently. That's my point. And so I think that experience, I think, is going to help them stay calm and cool during the series, and I think it's going to help them get the series win in 6. Now, Stanley Cup Final, Minnesota Wild versus Carolina Hurricanes. What a series this would be. So, I mean, give me the Wild. You know what? I've rolled with them this far. Is it going to happen? Probably not, realistically speaking. But as I've said all video, I don't want to pick the favorites because that's boring. So Kaprizov, Hughes, they get their cup, and the Wild, they win the Stanley Cup. The state of Minnesota, I think, would just explode in that case. But give me the Wild in 6. And I guess that's it for this one. So, yeah. Have fun in the playoffs. Go Penguins. And that's it. So, don't die.